Hello there and welcome to today's hypnosis lesson. This lesson is a little bit special, a little bit different to what we've been doing so far, because what we've talked about so far, particularly when we did the hand locking test, are ways that we can get a suggestion to bypass the critical factor, kind of sneak around it and get accepted by the subconscious mind. But today we're going to start talking about the process of removing the critical factor altogether, taking it totally out of the equation, so all of your suggestions go down into the subconscious. The way that we do this is to use a hypnotic induction. Now, there's lots of different styles of hypnosis, lots of different things that you can do to get someone into a hypnotic state, but the one we're going to learn first is called a progressive relaxation induction. It's very reliable. It's very, very easy, and it's kind of what most people learn first. So it's sort of like the bread and butter of hypnosis. The reason that this particular induction works is because when you relax a person, first of all you relax their body, then you relax their mind, and as their mind relaxes, their brainwave frequencies start to slow down. Now, during normal everyday waking consciousness, your brainwave frequencies are between 13 and 40 hertz. So that's between 13 and 40 cycles per second. And we call that state the beta state. If you relax, this slows down. And when it gets to a level between 8 and 13 cycles per second, we enter a state that we call alpha. Now, the alpha state is where we find meditation. It's also where we find that very special state that we call hypnosis. So by relaxing a person and getting their brain to slow down, when it's slowed down to a certain frequency, they enter a state of hypnosis. Now, the easiest way to think about how this happens is that if we slow down someone's brain enough, the critical factor that normally critiques all the suggestions that come in falls asleep. And while the critical factor is dozing away, all of our suggestions gain access to the subconscious mind. Now, we can slow the mind down even further, and if we go between 4 and 7 cycles per second, we enter a state that we call Theta, which everybody enters when they dream at night, when they're asleep. And if we slow down to less than 4 cycles, we go down into Delta, which is what we do when we're in deep sleep. Now, there are different brainwave frequencies that are below this, and there's also ones that are above beta, but these 4 are the main ones that we need to talk about for hypnosis. So when you think about this, there is a little window inside the alpha state that we call hypnosis. And when people are inside that window, if we give them suggestions, they will follow them because the critical factor is kind of dozed off. When you use a hypnotic induction, it causes a person to enter that state. But people enter that state naturally every single day all by themselves with no direction from anybody. For example, everybody, without exception, every day of their lives, with possibly 1 or 2 days off, goes through this entire cycle, up and down, at least once. We're in deep sleep, we're in delta, we go up through theta, we go up through alpha, we go up to beta, we're in full waking consciousness, and then we go back down through this scale. And we do this every single day. When we're going down, and we go through that very special little window within the alpha state on the way down, we call that the hypnagogic state. And that's the point when you're falling asleep, when you see flashing colours and images. And quite often you might imagine that you're running and jumping and you might kick a leg out in the bed. That's the hypnagogic state. When you're in that state, you are very, very suggestible because the critical factor is simply dozing away. On the other side of the scale, when we're coming back up from sleep into normal waking consciousness, when we come through that little window again, we call it the hypnopompic state. Very, very similar state, but it's in the opposite direction. So it's worth considering also that not only has every single person gone through this process every single day of their lives, they also bob around between beta and alpha all the time during the day. So a typical day looks like this. You're in deep sleep, you go all the way up into alpha, and then you bob around between alpha, all the way up into beta, then you bob around between beta and alpha throughout your day as you do things that are relaxing or things that are engaging. Then you go to bed and you fall back down again. And then you repeat the same process the next day. So every single day of your life and everybody's lives, we have been in the state that we call hypnosis, usually quite a few times. Now, there's a big difference between this and the kind of hypnosis that happens when you've got a hypnotist with you. And that big difference is when there's a hypnotist there, we're using the state for a purpose, either for entertainment or to change your life in some way. When it happens naturally, there's nobody giving you any suggestions, so you kind of just enjoy it, feels nice, it is good for you, and then you either come out of it upwards or you come out of it downwards. So it's a really, really naturally occurring state. The times when we experience this are when we're watching a good film or reading a really good book. If we get really engrossed in the story to a point where we kind of lose awareness of our surroundings, then we've gone down into alpha. We also experience it when we're having a bath. We experience it, particularly a really, really powerful one, is if you are sitting around a campfire gazing into the embers. That's a really, really powerful state. Causes you to relax, slows down your brain frequencies, moves you from a state of beta into alpha, and then you enter what we call the hypnotic state. And if somebody gave you some suggestions at that point, you'd accept them. But that doesn't usually happen. Normally we enjoy it. Someone kind of clicks their fingers and says our name to bring our alertness back to normal waking consciousness, and we come out of it. Another time where you will have noticed this is when you're driving. Driving is very, very hypnotic. There are lots of things that naturally happen when you're driving that any good hypnotist wants to include in their induction. There's the idea of fixation of attention, when you're fixed on the end of the road if you're driving down the motorway. There's the warmth and the relaxation and the comfort. There's relaxing music. There might be a kind of rhythm going on, especially if you've got windshield wipers going if it's raining. So there's lots of things there that really help to relax a person. You become relaxed, your brain waves slow down, you slip from beta to alpha, and you enter hypnosis. What happens when you're driving that's different to all the other states that we've talked about so far and really quite interesting is you very often realise when you come back from alpha to beta. So when your brainwave frequencies go from between 8 to 13 Hz back up to above 13 Hz and up to 40. When that happens, you kind of think to yourself, I'm not sure which route I just took for the past 5 miles. I know I was driving safely, but I really can't remember going past that roundabout or driving down that road. I know I must have done it because I know the journey, but I'm really not sure which way I went. When that happens, that's the moment that you're coming from alpha back into beta and you suddenly gain full awareness and full consciousness of your surroundings and your situation. When you're in the state of alpha or when you're in a state of hypnosis, you are still aware. Your subconscious mind is driving the car and it's probably a much safer driver than you are, so there's nothing to worry about. We all go in and out of hypnosis every single day. A hypnotist does things that causes a person to enter these natural trance states when it would be convenient for them to do so. So a hypnotic induction is a little bit like having a switch that turns this very special state on and off. A progressive relaxation induction, which is what we're going to learn first, is like having a dimmer switch that slowly turns this down. So a person's in beta, their brainwave frequency is between 13 and 40 cycles per second. We begin a progressive relaxation induction and we say things that cause them to relax. That turns this switch down. They get down to a point where they're between 8 and 13 cycles. They enter alpha, they go into hypnosis. The critical factor just nods off to sleep. When you do a more dynamic induction like you would do on a stage show using shock or confusion or interruption, those techniques are much, much quicker. So in this case, it's like having a normal on-off light switch instead of a dimmer switch. So that's how relaxation causes hypnosis. So when you understand that and you begin to realise how natural hypnosis is, all of a sudden the idea of you saying something to another person and what you've said causing that person to go into trance is much, much more acceptable. And it comes back to that idea of the driving instructor instructing the learner driver, but the learner driver driving the car. It's that idea all over again. You say things that cause the other person to become more relaxed, and as they become more relaxed, their brainwave frequencies slow down. And as their brainwave frequencies slow down, they move from beta to alpha, they enter hypnosis. The critical factor dozes off to sleep, and then your suggestions go into the subconscious mind. And as we know, the subconscious mind then runs those suggestions like a program on a computer, and we elicit change, or we have something entertaining for an audience. So that's kind of how the progressive relaxation induction works. Now, when you're creating an induction script, you begin with a foundation, layer 1. And that layer is what you might say to a person to get them to relax. So you might say things like, your legs are relaxing. You can imagine that you've been on a really long run and now it's time for you to just rest and let go. And you can imagine all the muscles in your legs becoming nice and limp and loose. Just feel your legs getting heavier and heavier. And as you breathe, just imagine yourself becoming more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. So if you say just that to a person while they're lying down with their eyes closed, that alone is going to cause them to feel more relaxed. As they relax, their brainwave will begin to slow down. And if it slows down to that magic number, between 8 and 13 cycles per second, they'll enter alpha, and you'll be able to put some suggestions in there because the critical factor will have gone to sleep. What I would like you to do between now and the next lesson is to just write down a couple of paragraphs that you would say to a person in order to relax that person. To give you a couple of pointers, most people like to start at one end of the body and work to the other. So some at the top, some at the bottom. So you might say your feet are relaxing. Maybe you can imagine having a wonderful relaxing foot massage. And now imagine that relaxing feeling just beginning to soak in and around your ankles. And then as you breathe, imagine it spreading up into your legs. You can then use different muscle groups of the body to move all the way through the body, down the arms, relax the face, and relax the entire body. Or you can start at the top and move down. Most people have no idea how to relax, so you need to talk them through it. Most people have no idea that they're holding tension in their body, so you need to get them to release that. Most people hold tension in their jaw and their shoulders, so you might say something along the lines of, as you bring your awareness to your face, you can allow your jaw to just hang limp and loose, and any tension or stress that's in your jaw can just begin to float away as you imagine your jaw becoming more and more relaxed, and your muscles just feel like a handful of loose elastic bands. So this, just a few words, a few carefully chosen words can cause a person who had their jaw clamped up tight, holding lots of stress in there, to just let that go. Similar thing with the shoulders. Just tell a person that every time they breathe, they can imagine their shoulders easing a little until they feel nice and relaxed and comfortable. Now, between now and the next lesson, that's all I want you to do, just to write down a very, very simple script that you might use to say to another person to cause them to become relaxed. So the idea is, if you read that script out to somebody while they were lying down with their eyes closed listening to you, they'd go from whatever state they're in when you start to a state that is more relaxed, and you would slow down their brainwave frequencies by doing that. Very simple thing to do. Now, once we've done that, over the following few lessons, what we're going to do is tweak that script. We're going to add layers to it in exactly the same way as we did with the hand locking. We're going to look at the basic script and we're going to say, where can I include an embedded command in this that will make it more powerful? And then we'll look at what we've created and we'll say, where can I include pacing and leading, or a linguistic bridge that's going to make this script that I've created a little bit more powerful. And as we layer all these different little language patterns into our very basic progressive relaxation induction, all of a sudden what we've created becomes hypnotic dynamite and incredibly powerful. One last thing I want to say about hypnotic scripts before I leave you to crack on with your homework is what most people fall into the trap of thinking when they first learn hypnosis. They get a script off the internet, they print it off, and they just read it out to someone. They think it's like a magic spell. They've got to say all the right words in the right order and the person will go into hypnosis. It's not like that. It's much more like reading a child a bedtime story so that you can help them to sleep more easily. So think about it like that, and just talk about relaxing the body. Talk about muscles relaxing, arms feeling heavy and relaxed, all that kind of thing. In your next lesson, I'm going to explain how we can turn that into hypnotic dynamite, and I'm going to be giving you a few more things that you can take away and practice. So until then, you take care. Make sure you do this homework, because doing this is going to turn you into a much, much better hypnotist. So you take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.